The push for more cinematic feel in games is going to go down as one of the worst ideas of the industry. It's a simple reason. Gameplay is going to interfere with the shit you want us to watch, and the shit you want us to watch is going to interfere with gameplay. They don't harmonize all that well. Now, one can argue all they want and throw out an outlier showing the cinematic feel being a good thing, but I don't really care. Cinematic storytelling can have a place here and there, but one place it does not belong is in fighting games. Here's the issue with trying to shove huge elaborate stories in fighting games. The mechanics don't allow it. Let's look at the most basic gameplay mechanics of a fighting game. 2 players enter, they hit some buttons, and only one is left standing. That's it. These games started out as quarter munchers in the local arcade where the idea was to get the players in and get them playing the game. The most you had to go on as far as characterization is any shit talking on the defeat screen, and back in the day it all boiled down to, "Ha! I'm much better than you, and you stand no chance against my dragon punch." Or you do what the arcade Mortal Kombats did and shove all of your exposition and character information in the idle animations. People walk by, they see Scorpion pop up on the screen, and, oh, this guy comes from hell. And he works for a guy named Quan Chi. Oh, and he's pissed off at some other dude named Sub-Zero. And the list goes on. Now obviously this doesn't work in modern times because the only arcade games around these days are racing games and touchscreen games. You don't turn on your console and just sit there either. But I'm about to slam NetherRealm Studios' letter in the video, and I wanted to give credit where it was due. Now, fighting games all the way back to their origins are not single-player affairs. Sure, there is always an arcade mode or begrudgingly a story mode, but the computer can only get so difficult. I remember going through arcade mode in Street Fighter 4, and the final boss on the hardest difficulty, I could cheese him out by standing at a specific distance and flagging his down fierce or vortex thingamajig. Just jump over it at that point and do a roundhouse followed by a sweep. You can only do so much with the AI, and once you figure it out, that's it. Game is done. No, the reason people come back to these games and the reason some have formed entire careers off of playing these games is the multiplayer competition, which requires no complicated story. Speaking of Street Fighter 4, I feel that game has the best integration of story into a fighting game. What this game does is have an intro cutscene after you pick a character, a rival cutscene when you fight the scripted rival character, and an ending cutscene which offers a conclusion to that character's story. In between these things, the player reads little quips of shit talking between the characters depending on who won or lost. The main gameplay still takes precedent, and the majority of characterization is given to the player at the screen adding up their score, so it's doing multiple things at once. So with the good example out of the way, I'm now forced to trudge through Mortal Kombat X. Let's take a trip back in time to when MKX was being announced, and we got our first 25 minutes of gameplay shown by IGN. Out of the 25 minutes shown, you're only playing the game for about 8 minutes. Hell, you don't even fight your first enemy until about 7 minutes in. In the footage, IGN showed they only played the damn game approximately 32% of the time. Now, if we go by the timestamps on YouTube videos that have cut out everything but the cutscenes, you're watching about 2.5 hours of cutscene. So if we take 32% of 210 minutes and add up the times out of a total experience of approximately 270 minutes, you only spend about an hour of that actually playing the game. Does that not bother you? Now, if you're someone who plays competitively and is successful at it, then a $60 game isn't all that bad of an investment if you go to a weekly tournament and rake in at least half that. But if you're a casual player and you said, "Oh, hey, what's this at Walmart? Mortal Kombat? Oh yeah, I remember that. Let me give this a try, see what it's like now," and you only play that game a third of the time, that's some bullshit. If I wanted to watch a shitty Mortal Kombat movie with flat, uninteresting, poorly acted characters, there's already one out there. So someone watching is no doubt saying, well, if you're so smart, Mr. Snow, how would you do it? Aside from copy-pasting Street Fighter 4, take lessons from other games. And I hate to bring it up as a good example, but do what League of Legends does, with some minor tweaks. For example, notice the menu interface for League. Big-ass box in the screen that is used to show off comics or videos or whatever the hell Riot feels like. Do something like that in fighting games. In fact, I'm pretty sure a lot of these games already have comics and videos, they just don't include them with the game. Update it with patches as you go to keep people coming back after they realize, there's really not anything for me to do in this game if I'm not trying to go to EVO. Also, make use of your in-match taunts. I'm not talking about hitting the taunt button, but flagging specific dialogue quips between characters. If NRS can flag brutalities, no reason everyone else can't flag dialogue. Think of it like this. Say Ryu is fighting Sagat. Say Ryu beats Sagat with Shoryuken. That could flag a quick soundbite where Sagat says something along the lines of, "Not again, ooh," referencing the origin of the scar on his chest. People might say at this point, wonder what he means by "not again." Maybe if I read the thing the front page was telling me about, I'll understand it a little better. Both examples work together to not flood playtime with unnecessary cutscene interruptions. You're being fed bits of information during gameplay, and should you choose to, you can get some detail about it when you're done playing. As much as I dislike their games, NRS almost does this. Take Injustice Gods Among Us, for example. That game was a treasure trove of opening quips between characters. MKX2, the problem is there's a line set at the end of the battle and you think you can play another match then, but oh, no, I can't. 7 more minutes of cutscene after beating the computer in 30 seconds. And look, I know in the span of a 2-second clip you're not going to get deep story points, but you can at least flesh out your characters a little more and tell us who is friendly against who has a grudge against who, and some basic personality traits. It's like NRS will do something right and then just keep going to the point of fucking it all over. But you know, some people don't give a shit about any of this. Some people are going to throw it at me, well, that's what story mode is for, Mr. Snow. Playing through a story, I don't care how much it interferes with gameplay. Completely ignoring how story in fighting games was handled really, really well at one point in time because the developers understood these are 2-player competitive games instead of big expansive narratives. But fuck it. You gotta justify that $60 purchase somehow.